Hello, welcome back to Delectable You. Today we are making a goat cheese pear crostini. It is not my recipe. I got this recipe from a chef called Yotam Ottolenghi out of London. My friend Kevin sent me his cookbook years ago, and I have been obsessed with his recipes ever since, and this one is no exception. It is delicious, and I make this all the time when people come over for dinner parties, and it usually wins me a bunch of brownie points. So I'm going to pass it along to you so that you can get some brownie points too. So the first thing you want to do is deal with your pears. You're going to get 3 semi-ripe pears. They're not too soft, they're not too hard, and you're going to cut them into about 1/2 inch thick slices, because you don't want them to be so thin that they melt onto the grill where they're going, and you don't want them to be so thick that they don't cook. So speaking of the grill, I'm going to be using this. You can use a barbecue if you want to, but I just don't feel like turning it on right now. So I'm going to put this on high heat on the stove top, and I'm going to let this heat up because I want nice char marks on the pears. So pears are already chopped up. Now we want to put them in a little bit of a marinade. So why don't you come in here and I'll show you what you need to put in this bowl. So make sure the bowl is big enough to fit your 3 cut up pears. And then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. And then 2 teaspoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Make sure it's freshly squeezed because it makes all the difference in the world. And then you're going to add about 1 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons of sugar, because that's going to bring out the sweetness of the pear. And just a little sprinkling of salt and a little sprinkling of pepper, and then mix this all together. And I know it doesn't look like a lot. It doesn't look like it's going to cover 3 pears worth, but it will. So now all I need to do is put the pears in this bowl and toss the pears around to make sure that they get coated completely. All right, so these pears are nice and coated with the lemon juice and sugar and olive oil and salt and pepper. And we're gonna just wait for our grill to heat up so that we can get those nice char marks and let that sit a little bit. Then we're gonna move on to the second step of this. So I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit because I'm going to put in my sourdough bread. That's gonna be your crostini, your sourdough bread. But I'm gonna make a garlic pine nut paste to put on top of the bread that's gonna make this taste even more delicious. So you are gonna need a little mini food processor because we need to grind up the pine nuts and the garlic together. So if you don't have one, I highly suggest getting one, or you could use a mortar and pestle if you want to. But we're gonna use a food processor today. So come in and I'll show you what you need to do. Okay, so you're gonna wanna put in 1/4 cup of pine nuts, 2 cloves of garlic, a sprinkling of salt. I always put a little bit extra because I love it. A little bit of black pepper. And then you're gonna put in 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now all you need to do is grind it all together. All right, take a look at that. And it smells so good. Okay, so now what we need to do is put it on our bread. Okay, so you need a sheet pan, and we're going to put our sourdough bread on the sheet pan. So now all I'm gonna do is put my paste on top of the bread. And I'm just going to cover all of the pieces of the bread, and then I'm going to put it in the oven for 10 minutes until it's nice and golden brown, and then I'll show you what to do with the pears. Okay, so the grill is smoking. It is a smokehouse in here. So I'm gonna put these on here. We're going to grill the pears for 2 to 3 minutes on each side, depending on how hot your grill is. Just enough so that they get nice and cooked through and beautiful char marks on them. Oh yeah. Okay, look at this. We've got our bread that smells delicious, it looks delicious, and we've got our beautiful grilled pears that was worth all of the smoke I just inhaled from the grill on the oven. So now all we need to do is assemble these together. So why don't you come in here and I will show you how to assemble one of these puppies. Just put the pears on top of the bread. You don't want them overlapping. Kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Pick the pieces that fit together. And then you're going to top this with a little bit of goat cheese. Just crumble it on top. Not too much, not too little. And then it'll just melt nicely on top of these really hot pears and this hot bread. And that's it. So I'm just going to continue in this fashion, and then what I like to do is cut the pieces of bread into 3 or 4 pieces each so that, you know, everybody can have some. And then I just serve them before dinner. And everybody loves them. And you'll get those brownie points that I was telling you about earlier when you make these, which I hope that you do. So I'm just gonna finish assembling these because I've got some hungry people who are looking at me right now wondering when they can have one, which will be very soon. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been Lauren with Delectable You, and I hope to see you here again next week. Have a lovely evening.